The meeting will come to order. Now, met in executive session. My comments are very brief. This morning, I went and visited summer school at Du Bois, and that was wonderful. That reminded me why I became a teacher. And it was a young man there that you hired the last board meeting, I believe, Mr. Jordan, was running that, and he, along with his staff, just wonderful, just absolutely great. And so those are my comments, and we have a good school district getting better all the time. Other board salutes. Start with Mike.
I have a couple. I went to the high school, summer school, and that's going very well. They have 241 students, I think, enrolled is what they told me, and it seems like everything's going really well. This particular year, it seems like they are overloaded with English classes. It just depends on what the need is for students. I think last year was math, but this year it just happens to be English. So they're pretty steady with the numbers compared to what they've had the last few years, and things seem to be going really well. Also attended the first day of Common Core training that was held in the district. All 36 schools were represented and their staffs. I'd like to take my hats off to all the teachers that put in a lot of hard work in that day and a half, and especially my hats off to the math and reading TILs who prepared all that information, implemented it, and presented it to the teachers. They did a great job with it.
Say something. Nope.
Yeah, I'll take a salute. I got to participate in the Russ Yeager golf outing with Southeast Boosters put on. It's a great fundraiser. The Booster Club puts on. All the proceeds go back to Southeast High School. I had some administrative people from 1900. Mr. Basco was there. Thank you for coming, since I'm a big Spartan graduate. And they also have a fundraiser coming up. I want to just throw this out there is Mr. Rockford's having a fundraiser. The PTO of Southeast putting on Sunday. I hope you guys participate, because I will be in a dunk tank. So a lot of you probably want to throw me underwater. So that's my salute to Southeast Boosters. So.
Just to piggyback, I want to salute all the staff, teachers, and volunteers who are involved in all the summer school programs. And thanks.
I might just mention, when you were talking about numbers, Mr. Zimmers, that the Du Bois program has, I think, a little over 350 students. Mr. McVeigh, if I have that correct?
We're averaging 300 a day also in attendance, over 300 a day in attendance.
Do you want to add anything to the comments? I think we were there this morning. I don't know if you knew that or not, but.
I was out back doing buses probably.
Yep, and it was, things are going extremely well. Very impressive. Mr. Jordan's doing a nice job and has a good handle, it looks to me like, on everything.
And your organization ought to be commended also.
Yeah.
So it's in good hands. Now I would like to, we're going to recognize some people, the Southeast track team and some coaches. But first of all, I want to see, is Barb Montgomery here? Wait a minute.
Come on up, Barb. Better bring Mr. McBride with you, or it wouldn't be a good program. I think he's got a little bit to do with it, too, so. Come on, Tom.
Come on, Tommy. This was one of my students in high school. She's very special, and she continued what this good man here started. And you both are just about as good as you get.
Good. We're going to give you the certificates, and you can call your girls up.
Oh, okay. Yo.
I mean, Bob Lenny.
Thank you so much. And you guys have put together something that almost unstoppable. Yeah, I ran a couple times. I won a couple times too. Long time ago.
Give them to me. Here, want to get, right here's the tracks.
Here's.
I'll just call the ones who are here.
All right.
Tashlin Hall,
Come up, Tashlin.
Caitlin Spellman, Shirley Jones. And my other assistant is Shirley Bernstein. And my other assistant is Reggie Brooks.
You know, something to really think about, it's so difficult to win a state track meet as a team. It's just, there's so many moving parts, so many events, so much coaching necessary, so much dedication, hard work, blood, sweat, and tears. I know I did it. And I'm telling you, these people have done something that's absolutely unprecedented. 4 years in a row. Man.
Coming tonight.
Okay. Who's got the kids doing it? Donna, you ready? These are the
Springfield High.
Springfield High School Academic Awards.
Those are going to be presented by Mrs. Moore and Mrs. Funderburg. So,
Okay. I have some academic awards, if the following people would come forward. Chris Crown, Kathleen Fitzgibbon, Ansi Camel, Nicholas Snyder, Jackson Myers, and Patrick Fitzgibbon.
there's a breakdown for each of the awards that I think are worthy of mentioning. 3 of these folks are National Merit Scholars. Am I correct? 2 of them, 2 of the 3? These 2 right here, well, let's get them up there.
That's okay.
The National Merit finalist. Okay. And Ansi, congratulations. He's also a National Merit. Patrick. Okay, and Patrick is awarded for achieving a perfect score of 36 on the ACT.
They added them all together.
Congratulations.
Ansi,
Stick around, Ansi. Thank you, congratulations, students.
this is
Great job.
for your service as student board representative. Wonderful job, isn't that neat? Thank you.
Ansi served as the student board member this past year, and outstanding student, as we all know, as we just witnessed, and so job well done in many areas.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Good luck at the University of Chicago.
Mr. Lopez,
I have the Southeast High School achievement. There's a couple here. Allison Tinch, is she here? Micah Smith and Kopachi Tyler.
Micah, come forward. I don't have it.
It's right on those.
There you go. National Merit Scholar.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Good job.
Well done. I went to the, all of the high school awards ceremonies in the high schools, and these young people that you just saw up here were called up frequently at those events. And Mike, I remember your name being called several times, as well as the other students. So high academic achievement is very noteworthy, and you have our highest respect and congratulations. So go forward, and good luck to you all. It's a good thing.
All right. Discussion items. Old business, is there? Oh,
Business. I'll just give you an update on the old business I'm working on the residency requirement. I'm still holding off till July 1, till Ms. Sherman takes role of HR. And then at July 1st, I'm hoping to put a timeline out to the board and with Ms. Sherman, kind of how we're going to handle this, and hopefully we can have it handled in a new policy by August on the residency requirement. Just to get under control. I know there's a lot of names, so just give everybody an update, but July 1 we'll have moving forward on that, so.
very good.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I just want to put this out there. I know we have this policy, but what purpose does it serve? The policy on the residency. I mean, is this policy helping us to achieve the goals that we're trying to achieve in our school district? Or does it hamper it?
It's a good question. I think historically, it's been a policy for a long time, and over the years, it's had different enforcement levels. The origin and the concern, I think, has to do with the interest of the boards at that time for people who earned their livelihood from the district to live in the district as a sign of support and an agreement in the mission and a buy-in and ownership. So there's a message there that if you work there and you live there, you believe in what you're doing. That's the purpose that I recall. And others might have different comments on that, but that's my belief and perception of the policy. And it is allowable under the school code of the state of Illinois to require administrators, to require them to live in the district. You don't have to, it's permissible, so.
So the desire for residency, it's more, the people, is it the employees of the district that they want some buy-in? Or are we talking about, the citizens of Springfield, that they want to see the buy-in?
I think past boards wanted to see that.
The boards wanted to see that?
I think so. I think they represent the citizenry, and I don't think it's anything more than that it was good policy, that if you want to earn your livelihood in District 186 as an administrator, you need to live here.
Okay.
I don't think it's any more than that.
How long has this been in existence?
Well, I can tell you, I was hired in 1983, and I made a handshake deal to move here. I'd already lived here as a young person and grew up here, but after college had lived in another community, and after I was employed by District 186, that was a condition of my employment. So it goes back that far, if not further.
I don't know, I think that as board members, that we might want to consider looking at this policy and, going back to our constituents to see, is this something that's important? And, and does it continue to meet the goal that we're trying to achieve?
Well, this argument here runs parallel to what the city is going through now, and they've gone through this several times. The city has, at one time, had no policy, and then when more people were flying out of here, they started a policy which slowed it down a little bit, and I guess they're having another discussion on it now. It is really, in some cases, kind of difficult to argue either way. If I look at it, trying to be as unbiased as I can be, I think it's if you're going to come into this district and you're an administrator and you're going to make pretty good money, and you love this district and you work real hard for this district, you know what? If you work for it that hard, it ought to be that good for you to send your kids. And that's what I believe, and I know a lot of people don't agree with me, but hey, I'm getting old, you don't have to agree.
I think that's the basis for it. I think that's laying it out there pretty clearly.
Yeah, I just have to say, though, I mean, if we're saying that, why limit it to I know that we have agreement with SEA, but if this district is so important to people, then why don't we require the teachers to live in the district too?
School code doesn't allow it.
Okay,
School code
and
says
yet,
no.
with the administrators,
Correct.
okay.
And there have been arguments in court over the definition of what is a teacher. Well, every administrator has been a teacher. So that avenue has been taken when they litigated this.
It's
but-
been tested.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
I know, and it's,
Okay, I just want to ensure that, the policy is helping us to achieve our goals.
I think that's fair.
I think
It's a good question.
the reason I'm doing it, I'm the one proposing
Yeah.
behind it.
There you go.
I mean, the thing is, you're going to discipline these kids, and you're going to say stuff about district, back district up. I believe I graduated, went through all the schools, Butler, Isles, Franklin, Southeast. If you're going to discipline me, and of course my parents, I hope you live in this district. And I know there's people that live in Chatham, Petersburg, Riverton, whatnot. So it's good enough to collect your paycheck here, but it's not good enough to live here. And I have a personal issue and a problem with that. Because it's a slap in my face. My parents lived here. I went there to school. It's the way it is.
Well, I think that part of my point, though, is that it shouldn't be what we want individually. It should be what the community wants. Okay?
I think part of the problem too is that Mr. Lemming's right, it's been on the books for a long time. And every year I know people that don't live in the district or talk to. I think part of the problem we've had, some people comply, some people continue not to comply. So I think we're to the point, if we're gonna have it on the books, let's enforce it. If we're not gonna enforce it, then let's take it off the books. And I think that's the point we're at right now. What you're trying to clarify, I think,
Yeah.
is if we're gonna have the policy, let's write it so it's meaningful, and then let's enforce the policy. Because
Okay.
I don't think it has been
And
consistently.
I agree with that, too. But again, is it a policy that we even want to have? Okay?
Well, I mean, I think you can argue either way, and I agree with what some of the people are saying. If you're working in this district and you're a representative of this district and you're the leader of a building, you should think enough about the district to have your own children go here and to be a resident here, and I think that's what it boils down to. I think it's, you need to take some pride in what you're doing and live in the city in which you work and which you lead a building.
I would just say I agree with that. I think if you're going to be overseeing this district, you probably should have some buy-in to the city. So I know it's a cantankerous discussion every time we have it. The city has it more so than not. And actually, you mentioned the community. The city did a referendum for the city and asked, should we have a residency policy for the city? The referendum came back, yes. So
yeah, the problem has been an uneven enforcement of it. I'm not trying to criticize anybody because there's complicating issues, hang on to all kinds of different things. Any other comments? Okay. We have received from the SEA and from Local 15 demands to bargain, this being a bargaining year. We are looking at that, and we'll be in communication with both groups very, very soon. And we're just about ready to do that ourselves. Good enough comment?
Let the games begin.
And as far as the superintendent's search, today we received something from our company that is helping us do that, which is a representation of a advertisement that they're putting currently on their website, and it will be distributed all over the place. We had to go through it and look at it, and tell everyone that we were satisfied that it was factually correct, and so on and so forth. So it has begun. You'll be hearing much more, and I'm going to hope that Scott makes a report every board meeting. Tell us where. So, where
He's
we're
got
at
Bolton
and all
told.
this. But it has begun, and you'll be hearing a lot of stuff soon.
Well, I think the pieces that are coming together right now are the venues for the advertising are being developed, and the final presentation of the specs for the position and all that stuff. So it's early stages, but important stages, so.
Any questions? Comments? Okay. We did the new business. The demand of bargain was that, I just moved on.
Okay.
I have some new business as well, too.
Okay, go.
Can we get an update, maybe a little bit now and probably more in depth as we move forward on Wanless and Pleasant Hill, now that the students and teachers have moved out of those two buildings?
I can tell you what I know now, and I think Daryl Shaver, I'll let you go first, Daryl. Tell us what you know about the two facilities, their status.
Status right now is we're staging them to move their belongings and furniture over to Feichens, and determining what's left over from that, and then distributing furniture to follow the Feichens kids to their middle schools, so that they have ample furniture for those when they come in at that point. So we're planning on starting those moves next week. It'll take some time. After that, the buildings will be, I don't want to say mothballed, but they'll be shut down. We'll keep the alarms going and security going and those kind of things, the fire alarm and all those things going. And presently, we're using Pleasant Hill's gym as storage for surplus that we pulled out of Matheny Withrow, and materials we'll pull out of Enos that we repurpose and we're able to reuse within the district. And at right now, that's where those buildings stand. There's no, to my knowledge, plan for reuse of those buildings or sale or lease or whatever. There's no plan been developed yet, other than just quieting them down and saving energy and using them, the gyms for storage.
Will you come put something together a direction you'd like to see those two facilities go, to be sold, to be rented, to be something?
I can.
Make some recommendations so we can look at them sometime, because I know we'll be asked about this.
Of course, yeah. And I definitely appreciate that this is just starting and we're just getting everything moved out. But in the short term, I hope, not the long term, we need to discuss utilizing those buildings, and if we can't utilize them, find somebody else to utilize them. And storage, I don't think, is going to be the best bet for those buildings.
No,
and I
it's
know,
not.
and that's why I
Yeah.
said short term, long term, we just need to figure out exactly
Yeah.
how those buildings are going to be utilized, because I'd
Right.
like to see them not mothballed.
When will the demolition of Enos begin?
We're moving that up by bringing in trailers so we can get the materials or the belongings out of Enos, so we can move that schedule up, so that the asbestos abatement could occur or can occur. That's a 3-week process in itself. And so we're looking at possibly the middle of July, 3rd week in July, for possible demolition.
How long does that
If it-
take to tear?
That, just demolition will probably take 3 weeks in itself. So we'll be real close to the period of when school starts, that we'll have a hole in the ground. Or,
All that other stuff will be cleared away.
yeah, that's our vision.
And the new construction will begin shortly after that?
Correct.
Good, great. Any questions or comments? Lisa?
My question for new business goes along with what we've been talking about, Mr. Lemming and Mr. Shaver. At our next meeting, there's a lot of good things happening over the summer. I've
yeah.
had so many Owen Marsh parents call me to say, "You're their hero, Mr. Shaver. Thanks for putting walls up."
Well, I think that'd be
Could
Dave
you-
Smith. but-
Well, okay. Could you give us an update at our next meeting of just where, I know Sandberg's got a big thing going, Marsh, just tell us where we are on some of these projects and what fall's gonna look like?
I can. Just real touch base on that. It's a very aggressive construction season for us, and moving 2 buildings into one compounds that. So we're very busy right now. And I think Mike and I have gone over and over and probably thought about it too much. But yeah, I can give a report
I'd
next
appreciate that. I
next
think
board
it's,
meeting.
people should know. I know I've had some questions about what's going on at Sandburg, so
Sure.
I think just a little update would be good for
Sure.
the community. Thank you.
Sandburg's a mess right now, but we always come back in the end and it
You're
looks
ready?
nice.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
It's new business.
You do have some new business?
Yeah. I know I talked to a couple board members, and I talked to Mr. Cross about this. I'm hoping this can go on the agenda for July 1st. I'm proposing to amend the action taken on February 4th, 2013, and roll action item of 9.3, dealing with the laying off or permanent layoff of laborers and bricklayers. It was brought to my attention in the last couple of weeks that this could cost the district more money by laying these individuals off. So I just hope it's on a roll call action item that we can vote on this July 1st, and hopefully that gives us time from Mr. Basco and Daryl maybe to get some numbers to me in case
Show us the differential in cost,
contracting that out.
because layoff is not free, right?
Well, not with unemployment benefits, but also outreach.
Go ahead. Being able to compare their cost now to a project cost will be very difficult without going through and surveying all the buildings to see what our masonry needs are. Right now, work orders come up and we take care of them.
It was emailed to me, I have 27 pictures of 3 schools, and I know these guys are permanently laid off effective 28.
June 30th.
So I can forward you those pictures.
I've
That's my
seen it.
concern is,
I'm saying, in order for me to compare their costs with a project cost, we'd have to develop a project in order and get estimates and quotes on that in order to compare those costs. I agree, the masons, I feel the masons are valuable to the district. They bring more than just working on brick and block. They also do our concrete work. And like it's been said before, we have multiple buildings, 35 buildings. They all have brick on them.
Mhm.
And so, and brick does need to be maintained, just like anything else, so.
When will be their last day?
I believe it's June 30th is their official last day.
Okay, so shouldn't this be the peak season for doing this kind of work?
Yes, we work from March till December, basically.
Then I guess
They've done, we've done winter layoffs with them before.
Okay, I guess my question is then following that up, if this is the peak season, who will be doing this work after the end of June?
We'll probably defer those until we have a big enough project that makes it feasible to go out and do a bidding project.
Yeah, and this
Outside
was,
safety bids.
as being one of the oldies, this is one of the discussions that came up when we were talking about this cut, and we never got a firm answer then either. And I question too, what's gonna be more cost effective, keeping them on or laying them off, and I don't think we've ever gotten a firm answer. So I know it's very hard to do, but if we can get some kind of estimate, that would be helpful. I know we asked for that quite a while ago. Well, some of us did. We didn't get it, unfortunately.
I think it's a darn if you do, darn if you don't thing.
Of course.
And I just think you guys need to bring a recommendation back for the agenda and show some cost breakdown, and we'll move on this thing. If there's a lot of work that needs to be done, you either don't do it and we pay for that 10 times over because we don't do the maintenance work. So we'll get a response on this and lay out the numbers and give you a recommendation.
Okay, any questions? No? Okay, the Children's Mosaic Project. Cindy Knight?
Before they begin, just let me lay a little bitty groundwork for this program. We've met, Lou Baker and I met with the Mosaic folks earlier this year, a month or so ago, and I had no idea what this was. And there's a lot of learning that goes on in this job, folks. And I was sold immediately on what these wonderful people are going to tell you about tonight. It's something that I believe is critical for children and families. And so without further ado, why don't you cut the suspense and tell us about the Mosaic Project.
Will we be able to see our president?
Yes.
Well, Superintendent Lemming, President Flamini, and members of the board, we're honored to be here tonight to be able to provide an update, but maybe also provide additional information that is brand new to folks about what this work has been. I'm Cindy Knight. I'm Supervisor in Student Support Services with the district. And Jan Gambach.
I'm Jan Gambach, and I'm the president of Mental Health Centers of Central Illinois. We're the comprehensive community mental health center in your community, and we serve 6 counties, including Sangamon, Menard, Logan, and Mason.
The opportunity tonight is to talk about the collaboration that involves the mental health center and schools and several other community partners. In fact, the list is quite varied and really cuts across our community of Springfield. This is a joint project where we hope to show that we're better identifying and meeting social emotional needs of students, and in a way that's really never been done before. This is somewhat of a pilot project funded by the Illinois Children's Healthcare Foundation, and it's a unique opportunity to learn what works in helping identify and meet these needs as a system, and also to continue the vision of systems change that helps us adjust resources to be most responsive in braiding our efforts and expertise. Thank you. And finally, our efforts are between student support services, mental health, is often behind the scenes. And we want to bring some light to this sort of work because we feel that mental health is everybody's work and everybody's ownership, because health means everybody. And so even though sometimes coming from within the district, we sometimes pocket where we feel our services fit only a certain part of the puzzle, but truly, from our standpoint of student support services, we work with all children, and we do a tremendous amount of prevention work that, in addition to working with students with IEPs. So we want to recognize how all of our efforts together can help our kids.
Okay. All right, well, thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk about the Children's Mosaic Partner, or Mosaic Partnership. I want to give a shout out to a few of our partners in this room. It's so reassuring for me to see Diane and Chris here, and actually Bobby Blackwell. They're partners of ours. Tell me if I'm doing something wrong here.
No.
Okay. I wanted to give the new members a little bit of a synopsis of the Children's Mosaic Project. And so in 2009, the Illinois Children's Healthcare Partnership, they released a request for proposal funding called the Illinois Children's Mental Health Initiative, Building Systems of Care Community by Community. And a group of us had already been meeting together on children's issues. We've applied for a number of different grant opportunities, and when we saw this, we jumped at it. Fast forward 2 years later, in the fall of so the fall of 2011, we we're notified that we are one of 4 successful communities that received a little over $2 million grant for 3 years to really transform the system of care in Springfield. And we had a planning grant for the first year. So what we looked at is how do we operate together? And we knew the key was to build better collaborations among the different systems of care. So we knew we had to build bridges between mental health and the school district, between mental health and primary care, child welfare. And so that was the first point. The second one was we looked at what was out there in our larger research base, and we found excellent evidence-based models that we've been able to bring to Springfield. And we knew for this to be effective, we had to build a new way of doing business. We had to challenge our status quo fairly significantly to get this work done. So you've heard that it takes a village to raise a child. It's pretty, one of these old sayings. Well, I actually don't agree with that. It takes a well-coordinated village. Actually, in some respects, we can work at cross purposes of each other. So that child and that family don't know themselves coming or going. And so I think it takes a well-coordinated, well-informed village to raise our children successfully. And we really, all of us on that list, we had a simple vision. And the simple vision is that all of our children have the opportunity to grow up happy, healthy, and successful. And it was very cool hearing and seeing these very successful students come up even today to be recognized. And we want that opportunity for every single child in School District 186. This is the list of our committed Mosaic partners. It's kind of an evolving field, but all of us are very committed to changing the way we do business in the service of our children. So for me, what did it mean for traditional community mental health center? Well, your mission is to educate kids. My mission is to provide mental health to those kids who have serious mental illness or emotional disturbances. What does that mean? What that means is that by the time a child gets to our service, they've usually been struggling for 3 or 4 years until finally a crisis is reached and they tumble over into our system. We knew that that wasn't serving our kids well, and so one of the things that we're doing is we're bringing our mental health therapists and community support workers where the children live, learn, and grow. So we're better than in the school, in the neighborhoods, and in the doctor's office. So that's one of the things that we had to do differently. We had to get out of our comfort zone and get into where the children are located. We also knew in the Mosaic that if a child or family doesn't seek out our services, we're of no good. And so what we wanted to do is to make sure that we provided as easy access as we could, a no wrong door access. And so that's one of the things that we also looked at is how can we provide our services in as simple a way possible that gets our families engaged. And what you'll see is some pretty exciting information later on. Don't know, but anyways, I'm going to plow ahead. All right. Yeah, there's a lot of... Yeah, I can talk. I can talk loud. I have a loud voice. Okay, well, while they're figuring out how to turn it off, all right.
Last time you did that, it went back, so be careful.
See, Scott has an awareness and a familiarity with,
That's what that is.
okay,
Cynicism.
they're messing with us. All right, so we know that a system of care has to be locally owned. And so what we set up, the Mosaic Partners, is we decided that we were going to set up our system of care school by school, neighborhood by neighborhood, and doctor's office by doctor's office. And so the first neighborhood that we partnered with is called the Neighborhood of Hope. And we worked with the Springfield Project was our Mosaic partner in that, and they have been working with the families and children and churches in that community to make sure that those children and family get the mental health support that they need as early on in the process as possible. Then we also worked with 3 primary care practices, some of our bigger primary care practices. Our first partner in this was SIU Center for Family Medicine. And again, what we did is we worked with that practice, those family physicians, in terms of what the new system of care needed to look like. And so just like your kids, everyone, are most people parents here? You bring your kid to the doctors for their physical, their yearly annual physical, and they look at their physical health. Well, in addition to that, we're saying also check in on their social and emotional health. And if there's any issues whatsoever that are brewing, let us know. We have embedded therapists in the practice, and a warm handoff occurs to that family, to that child, to find out what else is going on. And sometimes it's as simple as that. It's talking to that child, talking to that family, and being able to work something out right then and there. Our goal is to make sure that issues don't become problems, and problems don't become conditions and disabilities that follow a child around all their life. And through research, we know that if we can intervene early enough, many issues can be avoided farther on. And that child can be educated and can be successful in their education. So that's kind of the goal there. And I'm going to turn it over, and Cindy's going to talk more about like the school piece. That's where we're going to focus most of our attention on.
Sure, thank you. Part of the larger work of this project is to just keep revisiting the fact that social emotional health and healthy development in that part of our lives is important for every child, and that it's important for every one of us who touches the life of a child or has support, connections to a child, that is part of our work as well. So that means everybody potentially in our schools, everybody in our system, and then connecting ourselves professionally in a way that makes it very clear that we're all going for the same goals. And what this partnership has been such a celebration. I have to say, I came to the district in 1987, and I have had real bright spots along that way, but this project has really kind of become one of my passions, because in building this collaboration, we've had focused, real concrete work in our schools, but we've also built some great professional relationships that when we've had a crisis, we've been able to call and get support for mental health and for our staff or for our students. We've also just built the relationship that we have a vision for the Springfield community, that we want more people on board to help us do that work. So, and to reduce the stigma of what it means to go into this realm of our functioning. So, but in the schools, I know that's one of our key interests tonight, is that we do have partnerships very focused in a couple of schools so far, and with the eye to expand. Urban League Head Start has also been part of the project. In the schools, the way this looks is that teachers conduct a structured screening. They use a form that's standardized, and we follow all the protocols of using that as a real kind of research-based tool. And then that data is then used to help us identify the level of risk or need that the students have. And it has helped us to also be able to identify kids that aren't just acting out their problems, but maybe internalizing their problems. And we have ways of them matching up interventions for them as well. School social worker has been helping manage the screenings and the care coordination based on what those screenings tell us. And this is done universally. It's every child in the school, unless a parent opts to have their child not participate in this. But this is really where the work has changed, because we've done versions of this that have been really positive, but this has really been a very global commitment to say every child will be on our radar, and then we will build those interventions based on their level of need. We already do this academically, and it makes complete sense to now be braiding these two efforts to say, because the two go hand in hand, learning and behavior and emotional development all are going in hand in hand. So the school clinician offers, based on the level of need, offers brief focused intervention and also does triage assessment for further needs. This project has allowed us to work with a behavior interventionist who is able to respond to crises and hotspots and providing technical support and kind of more learning for our staff, but also helping us with needs assessment to know better, where we can go with this project while we still have this great opportunity. And I'm glad Jan was mentioning two of our champions as principals in the audience, because this has been hard work, and it's nothing else came off the plate. So this was a real commitment to the health of our kids. Okay, in our two pilot schools, we've screened 532 students. Again, universally, that's everybody's gotten the same basic screening. Out of that, we found that 118 students, or roughly 22%, had elevated scores, which mean we're kind of getting into that warning zone and need to be keeping an eye on those students and then responding to what they need. In that sense, we have built some kind of quick, small group sorts of interventions. Some of those students may have been in mentoring or some other behavioral support plans. But in the time that it's taken to build this project, we found that our schools were already doing some great work internally. And so of that 118 students, really only 66 of them were already involved in some other support or intervention, because the schools were already tuned in, building the relationships and awareness of the students and the families' needs as well. But then to be able to have more open dialogue so that we can help our kids. Based on, as I mentioned, based on the screenings, then we developed targeted groups, and it might be around anxiety, anger management, those sorts of things. I think all things we agree are great needs. Of that original 532 students, then we had 72, or roughly 13.5%, who scored in an extremely elevated range, and those children were all referred directly to a clinician for the mental health services that normally would involve basically a phone number and a referral to go to another office. And with this collaboration, that clinician was actually housed in the school, became a familiar face to families and the kids as well. Even if their role wasn't to become an educator, they were there learning our system, and we're also there learning how to access and use their system to the maximum benefit. So then our eyes will continue to go to sustainability, learning what's worked well about this project, what we can apply. We know that funds don't keep falling out of the sky like these grants, but we're learning what works and some things that we can continue to train our staff around and expand some of the techniques and the engagement strategies that work for this kind of progress. So I'm going to let Jan talk a little bit about this.
So, what's working? And I don't know if you're as thrilled with this slide as I am, but this is incredibly exciting to me, and should be to all of you, because all of you want to have happy, healthy, successful children. So the way business as usual is that only 1 in 4 individuals get treatment for mental health. Most people don't. And so in the Mosaic project, where we're embedded kind of on the front line, 42% receive service. That's an incredible difference for us. So we're able to engage much more easily in providing support to that child and to that family that needs it in a way that's acceptable to them. Again, 2 to 4 years lag between symptom onset and treatment. And that can mean all the difference in the world to a child in particular. And in this case, it's 26 days we've engaged with them automatically. That's a night and day difference. And not only that we're getting families and kids engaged in service. We have an average 11.6 sessions. The sessions are based on what the family and the child wants. Some of them are short social skills sessions, like 15, 20 minutes long. But there's been incredible success in this program in bringing our services to the kids and to the families in a way that's acceptable to them, and that helps them kind of get some control over a situation before it gets out of hand, before it escalates up.
Okay, one of the other comparisons of business as usual versus the impact of having this work in place through the Mosaic is that as we've tracked our data around the SAS screenings, which are crisis screenings where we call basically mental health for a screening where a student is in very critical shape in terms of harm to themselves or others. And we have a significant amount of those in our data history. But in this Mosaic project for the year 2012-2013, in particular, we had 0 SAS screenings up to at least the point that we marked the line in the data. There may have been one beyond that, but that is a significant change where we are showing that with these supports and these kinds of models in place that we know the kids and hopefully are getting to them quicker. As I mentioned, this is correlating with other crisis data and having a very positive trend. In the larger system, one thing I think we've talked about is that by not having so many crisis screenings that we have to call an outside agency to come help us with, it's not to say that those things will forever be eliminated just overnight, but we are reducing our draw on the larger system and putting more of those efforts into the front end of prevention and getting to kids quicker so that they're not experiencing that crisis, but we're also not pulling on the system to send folks from outside to screen our kids. One of the other positives is that we've seen greater parent involvement in the school-based services. There have been lots of ideas floating around with school-based health clinics and those sorts of things are kind of full-service centers, and I know that that's part of the vision for some of our school leaders is to make our schools more of the hub of where these services become infused, and that's had a great response from parents, that that barrier is reduced. The significance of a positive relationship and more trust between school staff and families. It's kind of that mutual endorsement of this work that if families are building a trust with their schools, then we're saying these are good people. They're going to be here to help your child, and we're partnering. We're part of the same team. So that's much better than meeting a foreign person outside of our walls. One of the other big things as educators we have really paid attention to is that we are being able to show more increased classroom seat time if the mental health needs are met. And I don't mean always one-on-one doing counseling with kids, but as a system, are we more attuned to what these needs are and building things, whether it be through PBIS or other kind of structured systems, that we are changing the climate of our schools. And again, I think we would all agree there are massive needs across the nation for this. So we're doing important work here. The second bullet point is also a real key, that we've improved the recovery time within the school day, that kids are hopefully more able to return to class, and that's what it's all about. They're here to be in school and to learn and to benefit from this great instruction that we have going on every single day. So through these supports, we're helping kids experience something that they maybe haven't always experienced, which is that sense of recovery and self-regulation to get back into class, versus our last resort, which is some of the disciplinary action that has to happen, and then we lose our kids in a big way. Okay, a couple other just key points before we let you go tonight. Some things that we've learned so far is that we have really some great resources in our district. Over the last several years, we have realigned and changed the way we use and assign our social workers. We have made them, we don't have people sitting in offices or just coming and going so much. They are really embedded in schools. They are building relationships that, again, when the bumps of the road come, they are more able to be part of a solution rather than, potentially being somebody that isn't so well known in the school. We're redefining their roles, we're using a systems approach, and we really are striving at all times to help kind of convey the idea that we have really great school social workers, but also many of them are clinically licensed as well. And then we want them to work at the top of their skill level, meaning that we have great resources as we continue to grow this work. And we've celebrated some of that progress already. Again, we're talking about the collaboration and how we grade services. The location is important. Assessment and intervention being available at the screening site, meaning our schools and in the neighborhood. The relationships professionally, but also within our schools, where each key person in this process is able to kind of gently and smoothly hand off to the next person that needs to help intervene with the child. And again, we've not always had that, so we're really learning some good techniques. And the collaborative process we've talked about, where sometimes we need to figure out as a system who does what the best so that we can have them be the experts. And as Jan said, reducing the complexity of the system for our families and for even our own stakeholders within the district is that there is really any door to access services can be the right door, because we're going to figure it out as kind of the behind the scenes leaders of this. So one more thing here, just about food for thought. When we talk about prevention, we look at things that have a lot of research behind them, such as PBIS. That makes sure that every student has some sort of support depending on what their level of need is. It helps us use data to make good decisions, because we know a lot of times social service work has often been done intuitively, and we think it's going to work, but we're really putting numbers behind it, and I think really showing what does work and rethinking what we thought was going to work but doesn't have the support in terms of the data. The PBIS model also gives us some structure behind making sure we have systems in place to respond quickly to the needs. There's some new research around a model called psychological first aid, which fits very nicely with staff training that we can offer that's not days and days and days of training, but is very key to helping all of our staff recognize what the needs could be and then how to get help. And that ties in with some mandates from the state to do more suicide awareness training with staff, as well as bullying prevention. So I think Springfield's so often been right on the lead edge of a lot of this work, and I think we continue to be there. So.
Okay, so just to finish up here, we know that all of our resources are stretched. Springfield School District, no exemption to that. You have a lot of tough choices that you have to make. My resources are stretched. So what we have found, though, is that by braiding our resources together, it's almost an exponential kind of factor. We can help out that school social worker, and that's something that we get funding for anyways. It's just we have to do it a little differently. And so to us, that's kind of the learning lesson for us, is by braiding our resources together, we can provide a stronger system. And again, most importantly, for our children and our family who deserve to have the best shot at being happy, healthy, and successful. And so we all share that vision. Our next step is to try to scale this up and to, again, always focus and track outcomes to be an outcome-driven system. And so that's really our opportunities for the future. And I think that may be it. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
I don't have a question, I have a couple of comments. First of all, thank you so much for all this hard work. I know you guys have put a lot of hard work in on this. Secondly, I don't think people realize this is huge. To have social service agencies in the school district and serving the same children working together, people are not working in isolation. You have a common goal, talking about students, working with students, and if we can get this to expand, this will be a tremendous thing for the city of Springfield. Another thing I would like to mention, I think people don't realize this either. You had it on the screen, and I don't know if they're working with you or not, but we do have a citywide bullying prevention committee that is very active. I think that's a big part of this. We've had suicides not only in our community, but in the surrounding communities. I think it's important that we hit this hard. And the last thing I would like to say is I think we have to be cognizant as a board and as a school district to not keep eroding PBIS and BIST and the other behavior programs that are providing these supports in the schools, because it's very important, that we keep these afloat. So again, thank you for doing this. I want people to know how huge this is for our community. Thank you.
Ms. Gamback, would you share with us, you're with the Memorial Medical System?
I am.
Tell us a little bit more about you.
Okay, so I am with Memorial Health System. I'm an affiliate of Memorial Health System, and so I'm the system administrator for behavioral health for Memorial Health System, and I am the president of the Community Mental Health Center. Mental Health Centers of Central Illinois. And I've been at this job for 5 years. My husband is a teacher. It's kind of nice to see some, like Larry was his boss. And he has nagged me. When I first got this job, he nagged me saying, Jan, mental health is, I won't say what he said to me, but he did not say we're doing a great job. And so I've taken this on personally. I'm from a family of teachers. My mother and sister are also teachers. And I understand the tremendous job. We were with Diane. Every time we were with Diane, she's got a kid in tow. And so this is very important to us. And again, we know there's lots of challenges with healthcare reform. But what it is, it's bringing our services down a notch, not waiting till the crisis erupts. And all of us on the Mosaic are very committed to that, to really work on how we can prevent these crises from kind of rolling out of control. So that's a little bit about me. I also am part of Springfield School District. I have 3 children who have graduated successfully from our wonderful School District 186. I'm very committed to School District 186.
Thank you very much. We're very fortunate to have that commitment. Nothing could be better than having that program that you're piloting in Matheny Withrow, and what's the other school?
Oh, it's been CCPA.
Okay.
Yeah, so we are.
Well, I knew the office was in that building, but I didn't know how that was working there, so.
It's nice having Chris and Diane here.
You bet.
Yeah.
You bet.
Figuring out the other schools.
So it's terrific. Thank you very much.
I just have a question. So in ramping this program up and including more schools, is there a cost allocated with this, or?
I'll let Cindy talk about that. I'm sure there is.
We do have some remaining time on the grant. The grant runs through the end of the calendar year 2014, so we do have some key, very crucial time to continue utilizing what that brings to us. We're trying to figure out ways that we can learn and do better that always minimizes cost, but it's sometimes just changing the way we're doing things and building our awareness so that we're asking ourselves better questions about what are the needs of students and responding in a way as a system, whether it's internal to the school district, about how we're using the resources we have. So sometimes we have to look at things that have to come off the plates so that we can do this important work. And that's where, the mental health in schools initiatives are really where the next wave of real serious work is. So we're trying to stay kind of on the front edge of that and learn and do better. So,
Is there a possibility that the grant can be renewed?
No, but Donna, I tell you, we're in betwixt and between. Crises cost a lot of money.
Right.
Having kids who cannot handle their circumstances costs all of us money. And so really what we're trying to do is to reorganize our resources differently. We know that all of our resources are really stretched, so it is trying to, at the same time, create these prevention services which will avoid the higher end services, but, in the meantime, how do you support both?
So you're focusing mainly on the elementary schools for the earliest intervention. That'd be more effective.
Well, actually, we have different initiatives in each of the three, but the first year, you're right, we started with our elementary schools and with actually our Head Start.
Okay. All right. Well,
Donna Ferguson, you're involved in this somehow or another, I believe. Can you just address that briefly?
Yeah, well, I was looking for a little more to do, but it had to have a purpose. And like so many people have said, one of my passions has been mental health in schools. And so I'm a part-time, which I'm happy to say, part-time project liaison. And I think as the year progresses, I'll be working very closely with the schools, hopefully, as we bring some more on. And then just do a variety of other things, too. So I'm a happy little clam.
So what's your role?
Well, just about anything that they ask me to do, quite
okay.
honestly,
All
yes.
right.
I do things
I understand that one very well.
Yeah, yeah. And it works, so, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Donna, good seeing you again.
If someone didn't recall that Donna was the former director of student support, Lou Baker's predecessor, so welcome back, good to see you around.
Thaney Withrow Elementary School enhanced dress code and school name. Mrs. Motley.
Well, I have to say something about Mosaic. It's just not fair. I gotta tell you, you'll hear this a lot from me. But the Mosaic plan is like a dream come true for me as well. I've also been in the district for about 30 years, and I've been at several schools, Harvard Park, Fairview, Pleasant Hill, and now Thaney. And every school has children who need Mosaic. And my commitment is that, like Jeffrey Canada, we take one block at a time. And this program has been outstanding. It's been a work in progress, because we have to learn with mental health how each of us works. And that alone takes some time. But I would say in the first year, we got some of those kinks worked out, not that there's a few more to go. But we have seen success in our children, and we've also seen parents coming through the door that we had never seen before. So we have a long way to go, but thank you for being there.
Oops, sorry. It's okay.
Are you plugged in? Are we
Yep.
plugged in?
But let me just make sure her.
Here we go.
The other dream come true, see, I told you I'd say it more than once, and I want to say this at the beginning before I move into the dress code, is that, we are all getting this wonderful, beautiful new school on the east side of Springfield. And that has also been a dream come true, something for our community to take pride in and to have ownership in. So I wanted to say thank you to Daryl Shaver, Dave Smith, Mike Morris, and Dave Leonati, and many, many, many other people for making this become a reality. So, thank you. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the enhanced dress code at Matheny Withrow. And before we start with the first slide, I would like to give you a little background as to how this kind of came up. Dr. Milton actually approached me a couple times with my opinion about enhanced dress code. And each time he approached me, I was like, I don't really want to think about that. I had a lot of other things on my plate, and so I just, kind of pushed it aside. Then in, I would say, January or February, he asked again if I would consider it as we go into a new building. And so at that point, I thought it deserved another look. So this was really kind of an initiative brought to us, and I wasn't really sure how it was going to go. So I thought I want to start very small and kind of expand on whether my community wanted an enhanced dress code. So you can see from the first bullet, we have a very active FACE team that is represented by parents, our community partners, and our teachers, run by our parent educator and myself. So we took the idea to the FACE team, and asked them how they felt about more discussion in regards to a dress code and actually their personal feelings. And totally, I was kind of shocked because every parent on that team was a pro for uniforms. So within that meeting, we went to making a list of pros and cons. And there were really good thoughts that came from that list. I have the list on my desktop if you'd like to see it. But it was something, a way to begin. And then we said, well, what do we want to do next? Yes, the FACE team wants to further investigate this. The parents want it. They're on the FACE team. So where are we going to go next? So we suggested that we kind of put it out there in a very mild way by putting it in the office newsletter, letting them see our pros and cons. One of the FACE team members put an article from the internet, researched about uniforms. And then we invited the families to an evening discussion. We sent out that in the newsletter. Then we sent out a second invitation for them to come to an evening event. Well, the evening event was fun because it was also part of Gen H. We were having destination dinner table. Then we followed that by a discussion on uniforms. Unfortunately, only 7 families were present. But of those 7 families, we were surprised that only 1 was kind of not quite there about uniforms, but all the rest were like, yes, yes, yes. So we thought, okay, what's the next step? Because 7 isn't enough, obviously. So our next step was to send out a questionnaire asking every family if they wanted dress code, yes or no. But not only yes or no, we wanted some response as to why. And I do have to say that every time this was presented as a principal, I told them that I was completely neutral. That I did not want to make the decision. I wanted them to make the decision. I wanted to hear their true feelings about what they want for their children. So I was very surprised. This is my little bundle of responses that came in on how they felt about uniforms. And again, I really thought that we were going to get just circles, yes or no. But our families proved me wrong. We had a lot of great responses as to why they felt uniforms were a good choice or were not. If you'll click one more. Again, this is the form, and in my hand, if you would like to look at these, I brought them just in case. Go ahead. We had 77 responses that said, yes, we want our children to have an enhanced dress code. And the bullets that you see up here are written out in their responses. Parents felt like appearance was a reason. They thought the kids would look better. They mentioned focus on learning. And believe it or not, that word is even used in the survey. They feel like the kids are there to learn. This is their job. And by wearing certain attire, they would do better at their job. Some families felt that it was cheaper for them to go out and buy a set, number of pants, shirts, that kind of thing, and that's all they have to buy for the rest of the year, of course, unless a child grows. They felt that there would be, and this was kind of a prominent one, that there would be reduction in bullying type behavior due to dress. And, you know, our kids generally don't just kind of come in and they are who they are. But in the last year or so, we have had a lot of children picking on each other about what they're wearing to school. And parents are noticing it. And then finally, several parents said, it's just easier on me. I remember fighting with my own child about what they were going to wear to school. I wanted one thing, they wanted another, you know, that kind of thing. And they felt like that would be an easier battle. Then we had 19 families who said no. And their response to this was individuality. It was kind of cute. One lady said that her daughter loves to wear pink frilly bows, and she should be able to do that. They expressed, their own child expressed that they don't want to wear uniforms. Here's another little cute thing that's in here. One of our kindergartners filled out the survey and turned it in for his mom. And he said, "I not wear no uniform." And he signed his little name. So I thought that was pretty cute. And then the reverse of what the yes surveys, that some of them said it would be costly. So kind of the opposite. And then out of the 19, some of them also thought it would be difficult for them to find the clothes. After that, we had actually only 4 who stated that they would go either way. They really wanted to stay neutral. If a majority said go that way, they would. If a majority said no, they'd be fine with that too. So we had 4 very neutral families. After the survey, because if you remember, I only had 7 present at our first little event. I had a captive audience in that we had a 21st century dinner, and 21st century is our after-school program. And at that dinner, families come and children get awards, and sometimes they put on a little skit, learn through 21st century. So I had about 50 families there. So I took advantage of their presence, and I asked them for about 5 minutes to just talk with me about this dress code thing. And I passed out a few more surveys at that time. And actually, I really didn't get a whole lot of verbal response when I was standing talking to the crowd. But I did get response from parents as I milled around afterwards. And again, it was more positive than I ever thought it would be among the parents. And finally, the FACE team revisited the results, all the results that we had. And I really didn't know the process on doing this, so I had to ask Ann Morris how this went, and then she informed me that once I had did all those steps, we then needed to come to the board and present what parents wanted. And so that's what I'm here tonight. Finally, the FACE team and some parents, our buy-in is very simple for this enhanced dress code. It's very similar to Washington, which is a big feeder school for us. It's the black, blue, or khaki pants, shorts, or skirts, a plain colored polo shirt with only emblems smaller than your thumb, and all pants need to have a belt. And that's kind of as far as we've gotten on the exact what we want kids to wear. It's not, I feel it's kind of open a little bit. It's still open to color and that kind of thing.
Individuality.
And we have some very strong partners at Matheny. We have a couple of churches, and we have a great community partner. And they have all said that at the beginning, which seems to be, from what I've talked to other schools, which is the hardest, that they would try to help us by purchasing some of the clothing that we could give to our families. So that is our dress code, enhanced dress code presentation.
What do the kids say?
I kind of feel like the kids are a little hesitant because they too like to wear, the individuality piece. Although I know that Mrs. Cramp, she's 5th grade, and Mrs. Berberette, she's our reading teacher. Some of the not having a dress code often causes some little issues, like the pants below the behind, and
Girls, low-cut shirts.
even in elementary. And it seems to, get a little worse.
Every year.
And the girls that get picked on for their appearance have been begging for a dress code all year long. And it's really sad to hear them come crying down the hall, and they're sad because they have on the same clothes that they wore yesterday. It's sad because when it wouldn't matter if we had a dress code, because you're going to look the same from day to day to day. So that really hit with me. I mentored a student this year, and she was just really upset with the way that she looked. It was hard.
And one of our FACE parents, who was going to come tonight but had another commitment, she's a FACE parent. She has only one child at Matheny, but she will very soon have 3 more coming our way. Something happened to her child during the school year that really moved her to almost want to walk the streets and tell people this has to happen. Her own child was bullying other children on what they wore. And she tried to solve the problem by, she decided that her child would wear the same outfit, same 2 outfits, for 10 days. And she wouldn't wash them. And so if there were any comments made about the same 2 outfits that she wore for 2 weeks, she would have to bear those comments because that's how, she delivered. She wanted her to feel the same. So that made her a very, big proponent because her own child was guilty of bullying others. So, yeah.
I've got just 2 questions real quick. I know there's a lot of schools, I'm all about dress code. I wish we had it at high schools, everything. I think dress codes are a great thing. Now you're gonna let kids wear Lacoste, Nike, all that. I know they're smart enough to know, hey, I got a better shirt than you. Do you see that being a problem? And then the second problem, 'cause I got 2 questions here.
Okay.
Second question, I know when I worked at a school here in the district, the problem was, some kids, the parents don't have a lot of money. They only have a handful. I know one school in the district is trying to get a washer and dryer because a lot of the teachers have to take home the clothes and wash them and take care of them because they don't have so much to do with. So how are you going to handle that, both those situations?
Okay. Let me address the first one. Actually, I have Nurse Mary who works at Washington. And, Washington has had uniforms for several years. And she said by lessening the emblem from as smaller than the thumb, it really has created pretty much no emblems. Because most of them, the little polo thing is acceptable.
And Lacoste.
It is on most shirts, even at Kmart.
Even ones that are polo.
Yeah, even if they're not. So that, I guess, is our solution to that because Washington, that was their solution. And then the second one, you have to know that we have a clothes closet at Matheny that would beat the band. And as we moved into our new building, we're trying to figure out what to do with all those clothes that we have. And so what we have, like I said, we have approached our community members and our partners, and they are excited about helping us supply some clothes for parents, maybe not free, but because we all think that free sometimes means that you don't take care of things as well as you should. So, but maybe very, very inexpensively, like 50 cents for a pair of pants, $1 for a shirt, something like that. And my friend here, who is a garage sale, what would you call that, expert? Has already said she's been on the lookout and would be, kind of trying to fill our coffers with polo shirts, blue, black, and khaki pants, and that kind of thing. And we have a really good staff that I'm sure would continually contribute to that clothes closet.
And our parent educators are already looking at sales.
Yeah.
Parent educators found a lot of good sales. We get lots.
We
of
almost
calls.
bought stuff, but we went, oh, we better not, because we can't put the horse before the cart,
What you're going to find out too, because some of these schools have been doing it for quite a while, that several of these stores now stock these shirts just because they're anticipating it. And you might find out if you don't go with emblems, it'll be cheaper for families. That would be my only concern. If you do have a logo, polo is going to be automatically more expensive for families. But my experience has been parents are going to find out it's less costly. I think every school that's done it so far has found that out. For parents, it's less costly. And it really is a less of a hassle for a parent because there are only 2 or 3 outfits for them to choose for. Pick one. They don't have to really argue in the morning about it. That's the data we figured out. And it's going to save you a lot less time because you're not going to have to deal with dress code.
With pants down.
With pants down or dressed inappropriately or.
I'm a little nervous about the dress code police part of this, but, worrying about it when it first starts, what are we going to do with the kids who are in violation? How picky do we get about violation, things like that? But some of my other principal friends have assured me that it really isn't that bad at elementary.
It isn't bad at middle school either. You know, what, we just keep a supply of extra things around. It does tell the kid, put this shirt on, take it home, bring it back tomorrow. I do know where you live, and I will come get it, so. I mean, you know, just don't make a big, just, you know, have stuff available.
And the Graham principal, because they're a year-round school, they have a sale, she told me, in early July, and a barter system too as well. And she said, you know, we would be open to inviting our parents to come to their sale as well. So that kind of helps at the very beginning.
And then we can have our own sale down the road at the.
Or swap.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
a clothing swap at the beginning of every school year, because as kids grow, you know, they're gonna outgrow their clothes to put in a swap, and then, you know, there'll be more access to clothes that's not real expensive.
It's a great idea.
Mr. Lemming, are you looking for us to take action on this at our next meeting?
Yes, July 1.
Okay.
It'll
Thank
be,
you.
I hear you're recommending it, I think. This is a recommendation for your
Yeah.
dress code?
Yes, it is, but
So-
I'm hoping you will be the ultimate decision maker.
Well, we will. We'll put it on the agenda to vote it up or down at at the July 1 board
Awesome.
meeting.
Awesome.
Yeah, the sooner we let parents know.
Sure, absolutely.
To start hunting.
We'll have a resolution on next Monday, or July 1.
And then very quickly, our other one is very quick. As we are moving into a new building, I had approached Mr. Lemming about our name. I think most of you are familiar with Matheny Withrow and its background, but just in case. Withrow is the building that we came from initially. It was housed as an elementary at one time, then it went to early childhood, and then it went back to an elementary. Matheny was the school that is now closed across from Washington Middle School. And when ELC opened up, the early childhood program, which was Withrow, went to ELC, and Matheny's students came across and moved into Withrow. Okay, so that's a little bit of background about the name. And what we have talked about as a staff, and with a few children, I haven't gone as far in depth with the name as I did with dress code, is that sometimes a hyphenated name is just a little difficult in various reasons. Mailing, T-shirts, you know, things like that. And our mascot in the past has been bears. And I'm not even sure where that mascot, if it came with you guys or if it was already there. But we thought about a mascot that kind of resembled who we are and we could learn about. And our secretary and nurse actually came up with an idea of keeping the name Matheny and becoming the Matheny Mustangs. And it is a beautiful horse. It is native, it's a Spanish native horse that was brought to the United States many, many hundreds of years ago. And I don't know, I think it's kind if you see the drawing up there, it kind of makes you feel full of spirit. It does me anyway.
Strong.
It is a strong animal. It is a free animal. And beautiful, like I said. And as I've done just a tiny bit of research, it has become a crossbreed since it's been in the United States of many different types of horses. So a little bit about kind of who we are too. So that's our second request. Before they put anything up there, to consider that we would like to go to the Matheny Mustangs.
You know what would be interesting? I'm going to shut up real quick. I promise. I know you're saying promises. I know. W.O. Withrow, long-standing name in Springfield in education. And Mr. Matheny was one of the founders of the city.
And he was in Mr. Lincoln's wedding.
Yes. And I'm an old history teacher. I can tell you where you can, for the heck of you, go and get some pretty good information on this in the regional office. Call Vos up and tell him I sent you that way, you get mad. But they have files that have copies of little remember how they used to print here in the district, the phone book and all of that? Well, they have these little things by district, and there were a lot of districts in the city of Springfield. And believe it or not, for example, you talk about Wanless, that was the school district on its own. Pleasant Hill was a school district on its own. Hazeldale, I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. But all of those had superintendents and others. And it kind of cites in these little tiny books, or Jim Berberet. You know him, don't you? Yeah, and he's the keeper of this stuff, and he would really know what to do. Okay? Give you some good information.
So you're recommending Matheny Mustangs?
On Withrow and Matheny, and just see how
We have a lot of, when we
this all
moved
came up.
from Matheny across from Washington to Withrow, our paraeducator did lots of research on Matheny, and she presented it to the staff again when she wanted to drop the Withrow and just be called Matheny. And Matheny has a lot to do with Springfield, and like we said, a lot to do with Abraham Lincoln, and so we just felt.
Sure, I think that's great.
Yeah.
New school, new name.
Well, old name.
It's a
We
new
like our
old
old
name.
name. A new old name.
Everything.
Yeah.
New old.
New old.
Nice job.
Okay.
New deal.
That also will be placed on the July 1. We'll also place that on the July 1 as a resolution
Thank you for
to
listening.
change the name of the school. Matheny Elementary.
Thank you very much.
Okay, business reports. Oh, Mr. Good. I'm going too fast. Fygens Elementary School enhanced dress code.
It's on the floor, Chris.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, Superintendent Lemming, President Flamini, and members of the board. This evening, I am honored to provide you with an update on the consolidation of Wanless and Pleasant Hill schools as we begin establishing a strong foundation for Fygens Elementary School. I'd also like to take just a moment to acknowledge our supporters who we have with us in the audience this afternoon, and I thank you guys for coming out in support. In an effort to unify two buildings as Fygens Elementary, we are proposing an enhanced dress code that aligns with our mission and shared vision statement. Successful consolidation will require a commitment to equality and excellence in education. We intend to build upon the effectiveness of both programs while providing every child with a rigorous curriculum aligned to the Common Core state standards and a uniform quality of instruction. In doing so, we will ensure that all children at Fygens Elementary learn and are prepared for success. Achieving a mission of equality and excellence in education necessitates attention to two guiding principles. First, we believe that every child is unique, important, and brilliant. And secondly, we believe that every child has a divine right to achieve his or her full potential. It is with these two guiding principles in mind that our staff drafted our shared vision statement on May 30th, 2013. That document, the shared vision statement, is included in your board packet. And it articulates standards of equality and excellence in the following areas: leadership, staff, students, school culture, curriculum and instruction, and family and community partnerships. As drafted, our shared vision statement provides direction for all members of our learning organization as we work collaboratively to promote equality and excellence in education. This document was mailed to all families and feedback was sought in the form of a survey and 2 roundtable discussions. According to our shared vision statement, all students actively participate as members of our community of achievers. And for every child to achieve academic success, we must ensure equitable opportunities for all students. We must provide equal exposure to challenging curricula and effective instruction, and we must establish a school-wide culture in which all children belong and contribute in meaningful ways. As a means of unifying all students under such a culture, we propose the implementation of an enhanced dress code in which all students will wear a collared Feichens Elementary polo shirt and navy or khaki bottoms. This policy is included in your board packet as well. In speaking to parents, it was particularly critical that we made sure that this policy was affordable and accessible to all. As a result, we have taken several steps to ensure that this happens. First, in addition to retailers such as Walmart, JCPenney, and Burlington, all uniform pieces will be available at Lures in Springfield. Lures will sell uniform pieces on site at Feichens Elementary during school registration and during our open house event. All pieces purchased during those 2 events will be at a 20% discount. We've also arranged with Lures so that there are discount periods throughout the entire school year. Lures will also work with families to establish payment plans when necessary, and qualifying families will be able to secure uniform vouchers through a program sponsored by the Sangamon County Community Resources. Each voucher is valued at $100, and qualifying families may secure 1 per child with a maximum of 4 per household. We also intend to establish a uniform exchange program enabling our families to exchange gently used uniform pieces at discounted prices. Again, this is all in an effort to ensure affordability and accessibility within this policy. As we move forward with school consolidation, we believe that the enhanced dress code will be helpful in unifying students as important members of Feichens Elementary School. By creating a community of achievers in which all students belong, we remain committed to our mission and vision. And I thank you for your consideration in this enhanced dress code policy and would entertain any questions that you may have at this time.
What was the determination to go with a logo on the polo instead of having just straight plain polos?
It's a great question. It's actually, as going back to that unifying component, really putting an emphasis on this community achievers approach that we have outlined in our vision, is to have something on that uniform that signifies us as a community, as a family, as an organization, something that children can become proud of and say, I am a part of something special and I am going to contribute as a person who is a part of this learning organization.
And the reason why I asked that too is I've had several parents come up to me and say, well, some were like, about the percentage you gave were against a uniform at all, but quite a few came up to me have said that their main concern is not the uniform piece, it's having to go with the logo piece and having to go through one provider to get that logo piece or having embroidered on, which would cost more money if they had plain shirts. So that's been the concern I've heard from parents the most. And I completely understand where you're coming from, and I appreciate that, but that's been the concern is it's adding to the price and the difficulty of getting this if we put a logo on it like that.
And I actually have heard the same concern. The reason that we had a couple roundtable discussions was to actually bring that conversation to the table and see what we could do. We have made some adjustments to the policy based upon some of the concerns that the parents had brought forward. A couple of them that were that addressed the matter that you just spoke of was to add increase the color scheme, and that creates greater individuality. Now, in regards to the actual emblem that is going to be on the shirt, I've also been in communication with Lures since I've heard that concern voiced. And what Lures is able to do is, in addition to providing the stitch shirt, they're actually able to allow parents to locate a different shirt if that is going to match inside the color scheme, and then there can be a iron-on logo affixed to that shirt. And so it provides them another option.
But would the shirt have to be purchased through Lures?
It does not if that is the case. With the, as far as the emblem is concerned, if you go with the iron-on, it just cuts off one step in the process because you would have to fix that.
What's the cost?
The shirt with the short sleeve polo shirt from Lures would be $11.98. And one of the things that I have been in communication with parents is that I went out and priced these at Walmart and Kmart, and you can probably pick up a standard, let's say, red polo shirt for about $5, $6 at Walmart. You're not going to get the same quality that you're going to get over at Lures at that price. And so if we're talking about long-term use in some of these, what we've been able to do to really mitigate that concern is put in place the payment schedule. So you pay the $6 maybe up front in August, and then in December, you can pay another $6. You've purchased the shirt outright. It's very possible that had you gone the other route and purchased 2 cheaper shirts, you would be out the same amount in the same amount of time.
Well, I would just like to share that, having children that do wear uniforms, my sons don't go, their shirts don't last more than a year. Not so much that they're growing out of it, but rather the amount of stains that they have, and even their pants too. Every year we always have to buy more uniforms. So, thinking that a shirt's gonna last them 2 or 3 years, I think that it's not realistic.
Mr. Lemming, could we, and Mrs. Morris, could we have a look at what all of our elementary schools that have gone with the uniform policy, what do they look like? Because the one concern I would have would be if you have a child that moves around, you've got a closet full of Feitschen shirts and you can't wear them because it's bigger than your thumb if you go to Mrs. Motley's school. So can we take a look at that and see, are we being consistent? Since I've been on the board, I don't think we've been asked to approve anything like this. Is that the right person, Mrs. Morris?
All the above, but we'll address it. Thank you.
We can get that for you by next time.
I think that's
Yeah, if we're
I
going
think
to take it
that's a
up
good
on the
point.
first, it would be good just to kind of have a sense of what the schools who've adopted this are doing.
That would drive it
Thank you,
home.
Mr. Colburn. You were very well prepared. I appreciate it.
I think by and large, what Mrs. Motley is suggesting is more the norm.
Mhm.
That there's a range of, white, navy, khaki.
And you can go to Walmart and buy it and.
Yeah, white, navy, khaki. In some schools, they wear the school colors. I believe Grant, they wear, yellow and gray. But in some of the middle schools, they wear their colors. Do they wear green at Franklin? Yeah. So it just depends. There is a range, though, of what is allowable. So it's not really standard. But I can get that for you by next time.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Okay, business reports, treasurer's report. Joe?
President Flamini, members of the board, the district ended the month of May with a cash balance of $8.9 million in the bank. Interest rates for the month averaged 0.22%. Earned interest for the month was $502 with earnings year-to-date of $25,700. Attached to the report is a schedule of investments and also a line of credit schedule with an outstanding balance of $9 million.
Superintendent's report.
I was going to report on summer school, but I think we've already done a pretty good job on that at this time. Someone was going to add to that. Was that you, Ms. Morris? Were you going to add to the summer school report? Jane was, that's right. I knew someone was.
I just have some information on the high schools, and I know a couple of you mentioned this earlier, but to save on some costs, Landfair is hosting not only their own summer school, but the district summer school as well. And I really, I want to thank technology and O&M and Mr. Wind for making all this happen, because we had to move some computers and take care of some things like that. But Mr. Doss arranged rooms for everybody. The kids are separated, and both summer schools are going very well. The SIG Summer School is being run by Lynn Williams and Wendy Williams. Their current enrollment was 493 students, and they're offering core classes, elective offerings, and online courses. And they're also having a summer reading program. There's 22 teachers and 3 assistants for the Lanphier SIG program, and that is free to Lanphier students. The district's regular summer school, which includes Springfield High, Southeast, and some students from some area schools, is being run by Frankie Baker Brown and Brian Hoffick. Their enrollment is 241 students. Right now there's over 400 courses being taken. We have core classroom offerings as well as online courses, and they, as Mr. Zimmer said, are off to a good start. Both groups have had professional development for their teachers and orientations for their students. And I've been over there 2 or 3 times, and the kids are in the classroom and they're learning.
Mrs. Chard, is it your last meeting tonight?
Yes, it is.
Congratulations on your retirement. We'll miss you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Appreciate
Thank you.
that.
Okay, consent items.
Okay, Mr. Flamini and members of the board, I'm recommending approval of consent items 8.2 through 8.10 as described in your corresponding resolutions.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Discussion? Scott?
I just real quick want to say I'll be abstaining to 8.10 because I'm an employee.
So noted.
Do you have any more discussion? Okay,
Ready?
ready.
Flamini,
Yes.
Funderburg,
Aye.
Lopez,
Aye.
McFarland,
Aye with the abstention.
Moore,
Aye.
Zimmers.
Aye.
That is 6 aye votes with the noted abstention.
Okay. Roll call action items.
Ms. Shambly, 9.1?
Oh, I see.
Yes. President Flamini and fellow board members, the President of the Board of Education of Springfield School District Number 186 recommends that the Board of Education vote to name Robert Lemming as interim superintendent from July 1, 2013 for 100 work days, or the hiring of a new superintendent, whichever occurs first, at a rate of $650 per day with a written contract to be approved at a later date.
So moved.
Second.
Sorry.
We like you that much.
Any more discussion comments?
We do, thank you.
Funderburg,
Aye.
Lopez,
Aye.
McFarland,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Zimmers.
Aye.
Flamini.
Aye.
That is 6 aye votes.
9.2, approval of personnel recommendation, Ms. Shambly.
President Flamini, I'm sorry, I can't get that out tonight.
That's all right.
President Flamini and board members, the superintendent recommends adoption of the personnel recommendations as presented, and also you have for your consideration an addendum also.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or, go ahead, let's call it.
One little thing here. I didn't get something pressed quick enough. Okay, Lopez,
Aye.
McFarland.
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Zimmers.
Aye.
Flamini,
Aye.
Funderburg.
Aye.
That, excuse me, that is 6 aye votes.
Mr. Flamini?
Yes.
Mrs. Shambly, is it also your last meeting?
It is also my
Okay.
last meeting.
I have to say the same thing to you. Good job, thank you for your service, and we will miss you.
Starting to see a pattern.
Anybody else over there? No? Hands down.
Nay, Joe, nay.
Cynthia, you've made a lot of friends here. Very productive period of time.
Thank you. And this has been a great district to work in, a great family of friends and community, and I appreciate all the support I've had all throughout these years. I provided a great education for my sons, and that's well appreciated also. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I especially thank you.
Well, here we go. Just a few announcements. Next regular meeting, Monday, July 1st. Coming out shortly will be the Alliance legislative reports that come out at this time of the year, and Freedom of Information report. That will be made public soon. Thank you much.
Mr. Blackwell, don't run off.
Yes.
Mr. Lilly.
Oh, yeah. 100 days. Was there 100 years war?